kind of looked in on that when I could, but generally speaking, I was playing Fallout all weekend. Like, I woke up Saturday and I think I got going at like 10 and then basically played until midnight, and then yesterday got up about 9 and finished the game at around midnight. Finished the game around 11, actually. I think I ended up spending somewhere around 35 and 40 hours with it overall. And that's, I think, you can go look at my PS4 trophies if you want to see. Actually, that wouldn't be an effective gameplay time. The game actually does the saves. Maybe it's in one of the menus also, but your hard saves are stamped with the amount of time you've been playing. Like, in a really fucked up way. Like, the save naming is really weird. But whatever, the save naming is the kind of least of my concerns with that game, I guess. Playing that game on the PlayStation 4 makes me really want to play it on the PC. They sent us console versions first, and then the PC version showed up like 2 days later. So by that time, I was already deep enough in on PS4 that I was like, okay, well, I'm going to finish this one before I see any of the other ones. And the deeper you get into from the PS4 version, certainly, and hearing from people that have played Xbox One, it sounds like that one's just the same way, if not worse. Like, just the frame rate is real bad in spots. Like look at a calendar, what year is it? Holy shit, what the fuck is going on? Kind of bad in some spots. It's crazy. It's one sequence near the end of the game. I'll try to, not talk specifics about any of it, but there was a combat-heavy sequence in a tightly enclosed area, and there are a ton of enemies, all of them firing at you, and all of them kind of jockeying for position as you try to, like, I'm trying to escape, basically. So it's like, it's a stealth sequence gone bad is how it went for me. I mean, I think different people will play it differently, but for me, it just became like I couldn't even tell what was going on. It was just like flashes, and the game basically broke. It was just frame rate down in the, under 10 probably, just like slideshow city, crazy shit. And I still managed to make it out alive through a mixture of like having a bunch of healing items and just kind of, being persistent. I still made it through without shooting anyone. Which, if I was trying to aim a gun through any of that, like, you wouldn't be able to do it. Like, the frame rate was so bad that you would not be able to do it. So I'm looking forward to playing the PC version, I guess, because, hearing from people who've spent most of their time with that one, it sounds like, that one runs fine. Which, I guess shouldn't be a surprise. Like, hey, guess what? The one on the most powerful hardware runs the best. Like, no shit. But for me, the surprise was just how bad it ran in spots on PS4. It was like, wow, what? Wow. Does the game load when you enter cities and interiors? Yes, it does. The load times seem a little inconsistent. I've had some that were, like, usually going to an interior doesn't pop, like, the loading icon in the lower right. It's a little bit faster. But, yeah, going into and out of large areas, there's definitely a load associated with those. Yeah, Dan's been playing it on PC, installed to an SSD, and he says it runs awesome, and that the loads are great. So that is almost certainly the way to play, which, again, not a surprise. But, man, wow! Some of the frame rate stuff in that game is just... if you watch the quick look, like, you definitely see some spots where the frame rate is getting down there, but nothing like I experienced near the end of the game. It's really insane how bad it got for me. It's a Bethesda game top to bottom. Like, it's another one of those games with, the workshop kind of base building stuff kind of layered on top of it, but, like, it's companions walking in the air, it's like dead bodies getting stuck on things and jiggling. It's turning around and seeing your companion poking out of a wall. It's you trying to interact with, like, quest objects. It's this guy throwing up out of the side of his car on the side of the road. Fuck yeah, look at that guy. They pulled that Avalon over so that guy could get out and put his hands on his knees and spit up. It's me, like, quitting the game and reloading it, hoping that helps it, because this is actually, like, a main quest. It's like, it's you always wondering if the next thing you do is going to make the game spiral out of control and totally break your progress. Like, that, it's that game. It is a Bethesda game. And I think it's, like, the scope of it's cool, and it's better looking than the previous ones, though, obviously they're bumping up a generation in tech, like, but I guess I just thought the performance would be better, like, it's one of those things where it's like, are people's standards out of whack? Like, like, are the consoles just super underpowered? Like, what's going to be the thing? Because we're supposed to be in that sweet spot now where you start seeing the impressive games coming to consoles. I thought Halo 5 did a really good job. And, they're not directly comparable, obviously. Like, the size and scope of those two games is vastly different. So, you're gonna make different trade-offs on every single game based on what's going to serve that game best, right? But I guess I was just, like, shocked that this game, the console version of this game, went out the door in this shape, and that this is, like, something that you look at and go, oh yeah, this is something that people would look at and go, this is one of the best games. Like, no, man, this is fucked up. Like, there's an awesome game in Fallout 4, but it's probably not on the PS4 or Xbox One. If you go to those games because you want to make awesome fucking GIFs of broken shit, Fallout 4 has a ton of that. But, you know, like, there are cool things about the way it's written. There are cool things about the factions. Like, you get to do neat stuff in that game, you know? So it's one of those things where it's like, I'm very back and forth on it, which I think goes for, you know, again, it's a lot like their other games. It's like some stuff in there that is really incredibly well done and nice and, you know, intelligently designed, and you look at it and go, man, this is fucking super cool. And then you weigh that against, like, you know, the technical performance and some of that other stuff. And I think that's something that I always felt like on the Xbox 360 when they were doing games there, Skyrim, the Fallout games, Oblivion, you know, like that stuff. Like, that always felt like wizardry in a way of like, man, these games were never supposed to appear on consoles. It's amazing that it runs as well as it does. For as messed up as it can get, like, there sure isn't a lot of stuff like this existing on consoles. So, you know, it's cool. Now, you know, like, they've been making these games for a very long time. They have more power at their disposal. I guess I just thought it would be different, and it's absolutely not. And, you know, I think that there will be a lot of people who really like the game. I think parts of it are super well done. Like, I generally enjoyed my time with the game quite a bit. But, man, there's just some, you know, every return, like, it became a worry of mine. Because, you know, it's like I'm trying to, like, review the game and, you know, get it done in a timely fashion while still exploring as much of the game as I could. And you go, you know, hey, go look at my PS4 trophies if you want to see everything I saw or didn't see. There, you know, it won't make a lot of sense to you until you play the game, I guess. But there's one faction I did not go down that road as far as you could. But the other two I took to pretty much damn near the end of the game. You know, you get to make that decision about, hey, which way are you going to go? And keep in mind what you choose. All these other missions are going to fail out because you can't do them anymore or whatever it is, you know? So, you know, with that in mind, you know, so it became this, like, extra layer of fear for me of, like, I want to get this game finished in a timely fashion because I've got to, you know, I want to cover the game. I want to write a review. I still need to see, you know, I had the Xbox and PC versions at that point, but I was already so deep into PS4, it was, you know, I wasn't going to be able to restart at that point. So it was like, okay, I need to finish this game and then mess with the other two versions to get a sense of how well they perform. And so it becomes this thing of, like, every time something doesn't work right, it's like, oh no, did it, like, you become scared that at some point the game's going to lose your progress. Like, I'm saving more than I normally do, and, you know, like, quitting the game and relaunching it every so often, because, you know, some games run the memory leaks that, you know, if you leave them run a long time, they'll run worse. Like, okay, well, is the frame rate going to be corrected if I restart the game? Like, no. So, yeah, I don't know. I played that game afraid that it was going to break at any moment at some point, because that's how, like, because it's a Bethesda game, and it did what Bethesda games do. And I just finished it last night, so I'm still kind of thinking my way through some stuff, like how I feel about different aspects of the game and how they fit together and stuff. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. This is the first out loud stuff I've said since finishing that game, I guess, or whatever. So. That's one of the things where you start thinking, like, am I crazy for wishing that this game was better? Like, is that an unreasonable request? Because, like, what the hell's going, you know, you see other people going, like, oh, it's incredible, this game is amazing. Like, it's Fallout 3 with, like, it looks better and, you know, the workshop stuff. Like, there's new stuff, but, like, don't like, it's kind of the same type, you know what this game is going in. After the first hour or so, you're like, oh, okay, all right, well, no, that's not entirely true, because in the first hour, they throw the workshop stuff at you, and you're like, what the fuck is going on, and how come everything I drop down is, like, floating an inch in the air? And I just, that's the part that gets me, you know? Like, once it settles in and you're like, okay, all right, they made another Fallout game. That's awesome. Guess what? I really, really liked the last 2 Fallout games, so let's do it. But, like, I don't know. What is the standard? If like, this game is getting lauded as, like, some amazing thing, like, am I asking for something that's, like, totally impossible to do? Because I feel like smooth frame rates are something, like, or at least smoother than it is. Oh, man, it gets so bad in some spots. Like, generally speaking, it's not a huge problem. It's just whenever you're in combat and, like, oh, I reloaded my gun and the frame rate got weird for a second there. I was like, oh, well, whatever. It's stuff that you would note, but not necessarily say detracts from the game. But, at some point, like I said, like I was talking about, like, there are points in that game where the frame rate gets so low that it becomes hard to shoot things. And that's a bad place to be. It's still a game where you're talking to an AI guy and going through some of the mission dialogue, and another AI guy walks up into the middle and goes, hey, what's up? It's still that game. And I think, there's a creative vision there. I think that they're making, a good game that, not a lot of other studios can make at that size and scale and all that other stuff. And then, the workshop system finds a really good way to make all of the shit that you pick up, like, useful in some way. So, it gives, like, all that hoarding kind of a point. Something of a point. I'm not... Overall, like, that's the thing, is overall I really enjoyed it, and it's a shame that it doesn't perform better technically. So that's, maybe that just becomes a ringing endorsement for the PC version, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to try that version probably tonight. I've got it, installed and stuff. I just haven't even had time to boot it up. Figured I'd finish PS4 and then move on to the other versions to get a review done. But after hitting X on a grave, I was so mad. I was just like, oh my god. Is this really happening? Is it really happening like this? Can't really look at the chat too frequently, but I'm stuck in traffic right now, so I can occasionally glance down. Is there any reason to build your base in the game? None that I saw. I mean, so you build up fortifications, and there is a way. So with each of the factions, there's a way to call them in for help. And not each of the factions. I guess, what is it? It's not each of the factions, but there are multiple ways to call in helpers, like AI dudes if you're like having trouble, or like airstrike type stuff, like, and some of that ties into the base building a little bit. I never needed it. Like, it's not, the idea of dropping a bunch of AI combatants on your side onto a battlefield just didn't really seem necessary. But the bases generate the random missions, like, hey, this settlement's getting attacked by ghouls, come here and stop them, or go there and they'll tell you where the ghouls are and tell you to go clear out a location. So, like, the different settlements become pointers to areas that you might not have been yet, to go kind of clear stuff out. And, this game, this developer, more than any other, I think, you end up with very kind of different experiences between reviewers, because, like, I've been in a position where, like, I think it was like Fallout New Vegas, where I didn't really have any trouble with that game. And then it came out and people were like, this is a fucking train wreck, this broke, and all I can do is go like, well, I played through a full retail copy of the game and didn't run into any of that, so I don't know what to tell you. So maybe I'm just on the lower end of that spectrum this time out, and other people had different experience. I don't know. Like, no idea. It's one of the. It is among the first big rains we've seen here this year, which is nice because there has been no fucking rain. But no one here can drive when it rains. So everything is even slower than it normally is. Oh, boy. I think what they did with the radio is pretty funny. I ended up not really listening to too much of it. It's actually got a pretty good soundtrack, a pretty good score of its own. It's probably also worth mentioning that the subtitles are sometimes wrong. I had it displaying subtitle lines for the previous sentence and stuff like that, where just like sometimes it would display out of order, or it just wouldn't update, or just like some weird stuff like that. Where it just didn't line up. That was more early on in the game. Later on, well, I don't know. Later on, it would just be like sometimes there just wouldn't be subtitles. It's like, all right, well. Okay, don't put it. I gotta get over. There we go. All right. The shooting sure does feel a lot better, though. I mean, it's, you know, you can more or less play that game like a shooter, like the VATS stuff. Actually, VATS is kind of a hassle with the way it kind of continues to run now because, you know, the way you select different enemies and select different head parts are still using the analog sticks. And sometimes, like, I've found myself in situations like, wait, no, why is it's only aiming at my allies? Why can't I get it to toggle over? The difference is, like, now, like, things are moving fast enough, still moving fast enough in that slow down state to, like, you're fucking taking damage. Like, you're getting fucked up because the game isn't letting you target the thing you want to target as easily as it should. But I didn't use VATS that much. I used it more and more later in the game, especially in spots where the frame rate was bad, or like fighting bugs that are going to be harder to hit and stuff like that. It's, you know, flying creatures and shit like that. But I thought the shooting was pretty okay. But I guess, I don't, it's like I'm a little sad about it, I guess. Like, these seemed like the sort of things that, like, I guess I would have thought that video games would have gotten past by now. At least these games, that, like, the moving to a new set of consoles and that would have made a meaningful difference for games. The bump up in power would be used to kind of power out of some of these situations that you saw games having in the last generation. It's like, oh, well, it's still... There was this feeling of like, it's janky, but we'll get there. Consoles will get there. It's like, maybe not. Maybe consoles are just always going to be this, especially these days, this kind of lowest common denominator product that, is made to be a little more affordable. And obviously there are impressive looking games that run on consoles. It's not, I'm not speaking ill of the entire process or anything, but, like, I guess I just thought that we would have... that we as a people would be past some of this by now. But you look at, the broken games that came out last year, the Assassins, you look at how fucked up Need for Speed was for me. It's like this. Like, as time has gone on, like, games haven't become that much more stable. I guess that's the thing. When it's like, if you're, maybe from here on out, this will be the change. Now that everyone's running on like a PC style architecture, everyone will get familiar with it once, and that'll just be fine going forward. Like. It's certainly not the situation where everyone's got a program for the cell processor and try to figure out how that fucking thing works. So, maybe more of the work applies across more of the platforms, and that's probably a good thing going forward. It's like there have been some fantastic games that have appeared on these consoles and stuff. There's some great looking games and stuff like that too. But like, you look at the overall libraries at this point, and it's a small handful. It feels like we're just getting started on like, oh, okay, here are the awesome console games. After a long time of re-releases and all that shit. People should probably try to get a PC, if they can get a PC. That shouldn't be a surprising statement. I mean, that's been the case for years and years and years, but I don't know. As time goes on, it just seems like that these are not issues that are going to get corrected. So, I guess it's not that people should buy PCs. It's that people who genuinely really care about games should try to get a PC, because that's where they're probably going to have the best experience for a lot of multi-platform games and the widest variety of experiences available. I don't know. Like, that just seems, it's like when you see games like this coming out in this state, you just think like, well, it's just going to kind of keep going this way, right? And maybe you just kind of could chalk that up to the developer being who it is and their track record of shipping a lot of stuff that is like really funky. You can't damn a whole segment of the business based on just the way Bethesda makes games, obviously, but. Maybe they just prioritized the wrong things when it came to making the console ports of that game. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? I would just assume that, and maybe I'm all the way wrong on this, but I would just assume that the more casual of an audience, the more mainstream of an audience that gets into a game, the less accepting they will be of some of the technical issues from game to game, because you see some games that run just fine and some games that just run erratically and fucked up, that, they wouldn't have they don't have the knowledge. They don't do the reason. They don't know why that is the way it is. All they know is that the $60 thing they bought is running bad, and they're like, "Well, what the fuck?" But yeah, there are certainly games that are on the consoles that run great, look great, and are multi-platform. I guess that's the thing. You can't attach too much to this. This is just Bethesda making games the way they make games, and I wish they did a better job with the technical aspects of their games, because the other parts are so appealing. That they make games you want to play. It's a shame that they don't run better. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I see other people talking about this game and this game in particular, and some other situations where people have kind of waved away from some technical stuff, and it's one of those things where you start like, am I crazy? No, I don't think so. Like, these are legitimate problems these games have. Like, what? Do other people just not put any priority on the technical presentation of a game? And is that just like an old school mentality for me? Like, I'm not over here counting frames going like, it hitches up here and here. It's just like, it's a general vibe. It's kind of fucked up. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, now we're finally coming out of some of this traffic. Actually drive at decent speed. Ugh. Hey, I will say the second screen, the app thing, the Pip-Boy thing, is actually pretty good, but not a full replacement for the in-game menu, because the in-game menu pauses the game. And I would probably run it on a tablet if you had the option, because it was only good for me as like to keep the world map or a local map up all the time. And then yeah, you could occasionally, like if you just wanted to quickly use a stim pack, you could do it that way. But usually in situations when I was using healing items, it was a situation where I definitely wanted to pause the game and not like, hang on, you stop, you keep shooting me, I'm going to look down at my screen here for a sec, and let me hold up my wrist here, and then, the screen is pretty small, it's like, all this text is pretty tiny, I double tap this, so run it on a tablet, not in don't hook it up to the thing on your arm, because even your big phone is too small for this. And what I did is I just had my iPad on its stand, kind of in my field of vision below my TV, and that was actually okay, but definitely not vital. It was a nice little bonus, just to make sure, like, okay, I'm still going in the right direction, or this is coming up, or something like that. Something a little more than the compass gives you. say something about the economy of the game being linked together to other people playing? Was that something that came out at E3? Or something that people took from some of their E3 announcement stuff? Because I know that was something that, like, Brad was asking me about. I think that's in the quick look we posted. His game asking about that, and I didn't see anything in the game about anything like that. But I'd have to go back and watch that E3 thing to see what they actually said. If there's some confusion around that, or maybe... Definitely not at E3? Okay. Alright, well. It's weird, because when he asked, I seem to remember something like that being discussed. But maybe we're both crazy.